It's the times when you choose to hold your tongue and you didn't want to. It's the times when you forgive, even though you know that they're going to hurt you again and it still hurts. It's the times when you show up for somebody and you don't need the credit for doing it. Those things, that's page. That's the early fruit. God sees that early fruit. It's what he's looking for, and he's pleased. It's not because you arrived. It's not like, boom, you have it and there it is, but it shows that there's life and that you're alive. Hey, welcome to the Jewish Road Podcast. My name is Matt Davis.
Hey, and I'm Ron Davis.
And we today are in a different spot.
Yeah.
We are not in a basement in the middle of central Kentucky there.
No, we are sitting on the top of the Mount of Olives, overlooking the Temple Mount and Jerusalem.
So not a bad place. Maybe we should move the studio out here.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm all for that.
Give us a little picture real quick before we jump into what we want to jump into here. What are you looking at right now? We're sitting under the shade of a tree, and what's your view? What do you see out in front of you?
I see out in front of me, first off, I see a Jewish cemetery along the whole hillside, thousands of Jewish people buried there.
The largest active, oldest cemetery, Jewish cemetery in the entire world.
Yeah, Jewish cemetery in the world, and they're still using it. And across the way, though, right in front of the wall of the city and the eastern gate, there is a Muslim cemetery, and it is strategically there because during the Ottoman period and the Muslim period,
Suleiman, the Magnificent, 16th century.
Yeah. The eastern gate there was sealed up because the belief is that the Messiah, the king, would enter through that eastern gate when he comes, but it was against Jewish law to tread across any kind of a Muslim cemetery. So they thought that by putting a cemetery there, it would serve the purpose of keeping him out of the Temple Mount and not coming into that eastern gate where the scripture says he's going to come through.
Right. The Kohanim, the priests, they would never go through that. So as they're rebuilding the walls surrounding the Temple Mount here, some 500 years ago, he says, well, let's just seal this gate up too. And then beyond that, we see the entire Temple Mount, and we call it the Temple Mount because it's the place where the temple once stood, but we don't see the temple there anymore. Some people might call it the Dome Mount, right? It's you see this big, it's center right in front of us. And then to the left, you have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And, it's just this place of tension. It's a place of conflagration. We're really in East Jerusalem right now, and it's a very Arab part of the town. And then you're looking out over West Jerusalem, which is very Jewish. And right in the middle, you have this international city.
Yeah. And when I look at that, it makes me think about the fact that we're living in the times of the Gentiles. That time of the Gentiles started all the way back with the Babylonian destruction of the temple right here where that golden dome is sitting right now, and Nebuchadnezzar. And that time of the Gentiles is going to continue until Yeshua, Messiah, returns and sets up his kingdom and the temple, the millennial temple, right in this area here. It's going to be a completely different topography when he returns.
All right, but we digress because you're about to start a whole nother podcast. Let's get back on to.
Well, let me just say.
That's how this happens.
Well, let me just say that that temple, that Dome of the Rock that I'm looking at across the way, constantly reminds me that we are still living in the times of the Gentiles, and that Jerusalem will be trodden down by the Gentiles until the fullness of the Gentiles comes in and the Messiah returns and Israel is saved.
Did you get it out of your system?
I got it out. Okay, that's it.
But not even close to what you really wanted to do.
No, I could do a lot more.
See, friends, this is why I'm here. I'm helping to bring things in. We're sitting here because this is a unique spot. It's not just the Mount of Olives, and I think sometimes this is probably one of the hardest places to speak at because everything has happened here. It's the past. You have David fleeing Absalom. You have Abraham sacrificing Isaac. We have Jesus and the million things that happen here during the Second Temple period. That when you come here to speak, it's like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one are you possibly going to pick? And we're going to do something that's totally different that I'm sure nobody really ever talks about, because we're going to move not to the west of us here to the Temple Mount. I actually want to start to the east a little bit. And we know that Jesus spends quite a bit of time over in Bethany, and that's actually about a mile to the east of us right here.
Yeah, right. And there is something really significant that takes place on a particular day when he is coming from Bethany to the Temple Mount, right?
Yeah. And so it's one of those stories, and it feels like the Bible's full of this, that when you read it, you're like, what is that doing there? It feels like this is a strange story. And it's also asking this question, do you know what getting hangry is? Hangry.
Is that angry and hungry?
Yes. Right. Like, so I have certain members in my family that when they are hungry and they get too hungry, they get not just hungry, but they are hangry.
Oh, I know them.
Yes, you know them. We dare not mention them.
I'm not mentioning any names.
No. But here's the question, and we're going to just take apart a little bit. Join us if you'd like. Mark chapter 11. And so this is right after the triumphal entry, and we talk a lot about the triumphal entry. And so we're now in the midst of this Passion Week, and there's part of this story that often gets confusing or misinterpreted. But, Jesus is just coming off of this time where, everybody's saying Hosanna, Hosanna, and they're, waving the palm branches and they're celebrating him as king. But this is the following day. All right. So if we have Palm Sunday, this would be Monday. This is the day after, depending on where you put the whole chronology of the week. We're not even going to get into that either. But it says this is, we're going to take this from Mark chapter 11, verse 12. And it says, on the following day, when they came from Bethany, so they came from Bethany, he was hungry. Yeah. Jesus was hungry.
Yeah.
And seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And then he says to it, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And then the disciples, they heard it.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah. Well, he sees a fig tree. He's hungry. He's looking for fruit. When he sees the leaves, there ought to be figs under it, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't find any figs. It's out of season. But the real issue behind that whole thing is this is symbolic.
Why curse a tree for not having fruit if it's not the actual season for figs? Is Jesus just, is he irritable? Is this symbolic? And really we're going to take a look at this, because there's something about this idea of the fig tree. It shows up throughout scripture, all the time.
It's, if I can say, it's used many times in the Old Testament as a representation of the nation of Israel.
Right. Now, in the Hebrew, the word fig tree is te'enah, and it's one of the most significant trees in the biblical landscape, right? So, it's mentioned alongside the vine and the pomegranate, the olive. We call it the 7 species that represent the abundance and the covenant blessing that God's giving to Israel in the land of Israel. You see this in Deuteronomy 8. Verse 8 says, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey. And so this is something that shows up quite a bit. Yeah?
It does. And it's a part of the 7 species, right? Did you already say that?
I did say that.
Yeah. And this fig tree is an important source in the in the culture of Israel, but this is not really what he's talking about in terms of food. There's something more than that, some symbolism involved in this.
Yeah. So listen to this. This is a classic kind of Hebrew idiom in 1 Kings 4:25. This is during Solomon's reign. It says, during Solomon's lifetime, Judah and Israel from Dan to Beersheba lived in safety, everyone under their own vine and under their own fig tree. this is a sign of something good. You want to be underneath the shade of your own fig tree. In Micah 4, it's talking about the future messianic age, and it says, everyone will sit under their own vine and under their own fig tree, and no one will make them afraid, for the Lord Almighty has spoken. So if you're sitting under your own fig tree, it means that you have peace, you have provision, you have security, and it becomes this picture of covenant life. There's a life of shalom, but it also symbolizes Israel herself.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting about it, because there was an expectation as he came to the fig tree, right?
Yeah.
He's hungry, for one thing. He's coming to the tree, he sees the leaves, and he is assuming that there is fruit under it. There should have been fruit under it. But what this is really personifying is the fact that it wasn't providing what its appearance promised, right?
Right. Well, in Hosea 9:10, God says, when I found Israel, it was like finding grapes in the desert. When I saw your ancestors, it was like seeing the early fruit of the fig tree. So when Jesus, he comes up to this, he says, may you never grow fruit again. He's actually cursing the fig tree. But this is not like I'm hungry, you didn't give me what I wanted, and so I'm just going to curse you. He's confronting a symbol, and you have to understand the depth of that confrontation. You and I, we're not botanists or arborists, so we don't know a lot of this, but we've looked into this a little bit. And here's the pattern, right? And I know this because we've had fruit trees in our backyard before. In most fruit-bearing trees, there's a pattern that's real simple. The leaves come first, and then you have the fruit. And the leaves are signaling that life is coming. It's returning back to the tree after winter and the dormancy there. And then the fruit comes later. But fig trees are different.
Yeah, they produce fruit at different times, and the earliest fruit is called page before its leaves actually appear. That early fruit isn't much to look at, right? It's kind of rough, small, not really enjoyable, edible, a little kind of bitter. It's not harvest quality fruit, but it serves an important purpose. It shows that the tree is alive and that more fruit is coming. There's an expectation. It's a sign of future abundance.
Yeah. So Jesus, he sees a fig tree already covered in leaves, and he's expecting fruit. The tree is advertising that it has something to offer, but when he arrives, there is nothing. There's just leaves. It's all appearance, but there is no substance. And it's actually this powerful visual parable, and the tree represents religious Israel in that moment. And he's really focusing in on the leaders in particular in Jerusalem in the temple system. It's full of activity. There's a lot that's going on, that's full of ritual. It's full of outward appearance, but it's devoid of any of the fruit that he's looking for. And all of this, it goes all the way back to Genesis in the very beginning, Genesis chapter 3.
Yeah, in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7, it says, then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So the fig leaf is the first symbol of self-made righteousness, a covering that was meant to hide, not to heal. It's outward, it's temporary. It's not the real solution. So Jesus, seeing a fig tree with abundant leaves here, is expecting fruit, but there's no fruit. And he pronounces a prophetic judgment on it, not just on the tree, but on what the tree represents.
Yeah. And so really he's pointing at this, and really it leads into this next part of Mark chapter 11. And Mark is doing something really intentional. He breaks the fig tree story into two parts.
Yeah.
It's a sandwich, right? And the technical, nerdy theological term is intercolation. Write that one down 5 times. But you have this first section. Jesus comes up to the fig tree. He curses the fig tree. And now he's going down the hill and he enters the temple. And if you don't really get what's going on, you say he's hungry. And then, it's the one time where Jesus throws a fit, essentially. He gets angry and he's flipping over the tables in the temple.
That's what it looks like outwardly.
Right. This is what happens when you don't eat, right? But it's all a picture. And Mark is a genius at doing it. Let me just read this. It says they came to Jerusalem. So he's come down the Mount of Olives, comes into Jerusalem. He enters the temple and he begins to drive out those who sold and those who bought in the temple. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. They're just selling some birds, right?
Mm.
And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. And the chief priests and the scribes heard it, and they were seeking a way to destroy him, for they feared him because all the crowd was astonished at his teaching. And when the evening came, they went out of the city. He's coming after them. And really it was in this period that they're still plotting. How are we going to actually destroy him? And then you get back to the second part of the fig tree story. They come out of the city and it says, as they passed by in the morning. So cut to the next morning. This is in Mark 11:20. They passed by in the morning. They saw the fig tree withered away to its roots. And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered. And so we go through all of this, and the sandwiching, this literary technique that he's doing, they help to actually interpret each other. The fig tree isn't just this lesson in fruitfulness, but it's a mirror that's held up to the temple system.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're talking about the symbolism that is represented in the fig tree and how this covers and rounds through the whole thing.
Yep.
Aren't we?
Yep.
And so what is that symbolism? Well, the symbolism, you have a fig tree that there's an expectation that there's going to be good fruit in there, but there was nothing. And what it is it's providing a misleading appearance that suggests great productivity without providing any of it.
Yeah. He's pulling in really two Old Testament passages from Isaiah and Jeremiah. He says, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, right? We hear that part. And you can hear people are just walking by. Those are the tourists, going by. They don't even care. It's fine. So my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. And then Jeremiah 7, has this house which bears my name become a den of robbers to you, but you've been watching, declares the Lord. So this is a prophetic disruption, right? Jesus, he stops the temple worship during Passover week. The city is filled. Imagine hundreds of thousands of Jewish pilgrims. They're crowding into Jerusalem to bring their sacrifices, and everything stops because of one man. And all of this gets connected to Hosea chapter 2. Verses 11 and 12.
He says, I will stop her celebrations, her yearly festivals, her new moons, her Sabbath days, all her appointed festivals. I will ruin her vines and her fig trees, which she said were her pay from her lovers. I will make them a thicket, and wild animals will devour them. Jesus wasn't just cleansing the temple, he was judging it. This is an act of judgment. It was his judgment. His judgment wasn't based on a lack of activity, but on a lack of fruit. And what is amazing about the whole thing in this instance, Jesus is using the fig tree by the side of the road as a divine object lesson for Israel's condition, their spiritual hypocrisy and fruitlessness. When there should have been fruit, it was just an outward appearance.
Yeah. So let's introduce one other thing here. In between Bethany and Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, there is a little town. Now, from where we're sitting on top of the Mount of Olives, go east 1 mile, and we have Bethany, and come just a little bit further inland back towards the Temple Mount, and we have Bethphage.
Right.
And Bethphage is two words. It feels like there's always two words that bring together these Hebrew words. It's Bethphage. It means the house of the early fig. And according to Mark 11, this is the village that Jesus, he passes through on his way to Jerusalem. And it's a small, but it's an incredibly meaningful detail, because get this, he's walking through on his way from Bethany into Jerusalem. He walks through the town of the house of the early fig. He sees this fig tree with leaves, but he finds no early fruit. He finds no page. And it's this living metaphor. Israel is in a season of visitation, but they're not producing anything. There's no repentance. There's no justice. There's no fruit. And the curse on the fig tree becomes a warning to the generation of his day. He says, don't just settle for appearances. God is looking for fruit. This is, and we know he has to stop here. You have to have this place that's called the house of the early fruit, the early fig. This is the place where it has to be. He's walking right through here and he's saying, look, this is a picture. I want you to see what's going on here. This is Israel at the time of Jesus.
Yeah. He uses this situation and this time as an opportunity to present a symbolic message of Israel's condition, what he expected, but he didn't see amongst the majority of them. So here's where it turns personal. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16, Paul writes, don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? We are the temple now. So the fig tree story is no longer about them. It's about us, right? Do we have the form of faith that we're supposed to have, but no fruit? Do we know scripture? Do we attend services? Do we do all of the right things, but resist actual change? Are we having a relationship with religion, or are we having a relationship with the Lord?
Yeah, I think sometimes we become comfortable with leaves, but we avoid the hard work of bearing fruit. Fruit is it doesn't equal perfection, but it's this visible sign that the life of God is at work within us. And so we're rooted in something. We have to be rooted in something that's deeper than ritual. But there's good news here. God's not looking for a perfect harvest overnight, right? He's looking for page.
Yeah. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for direction.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
You like it?
I can go with that. Yeah. And in that early fruit, it shows these early signs of life, right? It's the small, bitter, unimpressive acts of obedience that say there's more coming. It's when somebody tries to pray for the first time out loud and it comes out messy, right? But it also shows it's not for just new believers, but it's those times for those of you who've been walking with the Lord for a long time. It's the times when you choose to hold your tongue and you didn't want to. It's the times when you forgive, even though you know that they're going to hurt you again and it still hurts. It's the times when you show up for somebody and you don't need the credit for doing it. Those things, that's page. That's the early fruit. God sees that early fruit. It's what he's looking for. And he's pleased. It's not because you arrived. It's not like, boom, you have it and there it is. But it shows that there's life and that you're alive.
Yeah. And, we have to, as we consider all this, I think we and you all out there, and we have to ask ourselves a question. What kind of tree am I becoming? Am I a leafy, busy, filled with spiritual appearance, but not actually changing? Or is there fruit, even small fruit, that shows that I'm rooted in the life of the Spirit? Let's not be the kind of people who look alive, but are withering underneath. Let's be the people who produce fruit, real, living, Spirit-born fruit, even if it's small, even if it's slow, even if it's just the beginning. Let us show the signs that there is fruit under those leaves that Jesus was looking to see.
Yeah, this is the beauty of getting to come to Israel. And this is what we do when we come on tours, is we come to the place. And we always say that, the people of the Bible, we don't always know the places of the Bible, but the places matter. And when you can actually sit here and we're kind of on the threshold of Bethany and Bethphage on one side of us, we're sitting at the Mount of Olives right in the middle, and we can see Jerusalem. You tell these stories and it really makes an imprint on your heart and your mind. And people make commitments in these seasons. And sometimes it's just something as small as oh, I finally know this word Bethphage. And you look at in the Bible, is it Bethphage or Bethphage? Like, nobody really knows. But now you come here and you get to see it. You get to see the place. You get to hear the story. And it's really forever ingrained. We're coming back to Israel. And next time we come, we're bringing people with us. It's not going to just be you and I.
Yeah.
It'll hopefully be my wife.
Yeah.
I'll have a better
And
roommate.
mine.
Yeah. But with all this, it's a unique thing for us to be able to say right now, as we're looking over the city of Jerusalem, we get to say, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Yes. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Takes on a significant meaning when you're sitting here looking out over that and knowing what's coming. We know the end of the story. But in the meantime, there's a lot of things that are going to take place before we get to that day.
And until that day, go forth and bear fruit. Shalom.
Shalom.